Hey, Liron here. As the title suggests, in this video I'm going to share with you recent paintings of mine and what they taught me and the insights they have provided me with. Because one thing to remember is growth never stops, and you continue learning new things and noticing new things no matter how many years you paint. And I have around a decade plus under my belt. There are people who have been doing this for 30 years and more, and you just keep growing and learning. So this is actually an interesting one because I have shared this on YouTube. There's a full process of this one you can watch, and I think there are two key insights that I gained from this. One is just how susceptible I personally still am to optical illusions. And one of the main sections I noticed this is with this foliage, right? Now, I interpreted it as green, and you get to see a lot of green touches here. And if I hold it up a little closer, like this is a green, a yellowy green, when in fact, if you look at the original reference photo, this is quite blue. It's kind of faded to the back, and I even mentioned that it's definitely something I can work and fix just with another glaze, another wash of paint, something that's even a little opaque like this gouache cobalt blue. Just a thin glaze of it will push it more to be this, like something that's a bit more blue. So it's definitely possible. Most of these, nothing really is lost, but it's more of a matter of what do you want to work on and what would you like to improve, and just making some time to actually do the improvements, right? I do feel like I've done quite a good job when it comes to values, but the colors are still a strong weakness. And I'm very susceptible, just like you, just like anyone else, to optical illusions. So that's one big insight I gained. Even these buildings, I made them yellow. They're quite gray, actually. So there's a tendency to exaggerate the colors. Guess what? I'm not impervious to that too. It happens to me all the time. Now, the second insight, it's kind of a positive one, which is interesting, is I started the painting, especially these sections, being a little tighter and a little more, I think, caught up in like the small nuances and details. And as the painting progressed, I was able to paint something like this section, which is a lot freer and a lot smoother. So I think one insight is as to the steps and the stages of a watercolor painting, in the way of your mindset, where you are, what you feel as you paint. And by the way, sorry, they're doing some yard work outside. Hopefully it's not too strong through the audio. Evolves during the painting. Your looseness and freedom evolve, and so sometimes you'll start very tight and then you'll go looser. Sometimes you start loose right out the gate. But you'll notice, especially for longer painting processes, I want you to watch yourself and see just how much you yourself have evolved through the painting process. And is there a way to bring that same loose spirit to the early parts of the process, Because it could be very beneficial to be able to do that. But in any case, this is this one. And of course, I only chose paintings that I perceive as completed, finished paintings. And most of these are really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm being critical just for the lesson's sake. But I love these, all of them. Here's another interesting one that sort of taught me how you could bring back that same kind of insight of how caught I am in what I'm seeing instead of kind of just interpreting it freely. One of the things I noticed is you can recognize a pattern. So the pattern here is where the strong sunlight is in the sunset. It really pours through the buildings and paints them red. You can recognize a pattern and then just paint based on that pattern without always constantly checking for the reference photo for improvement. Is this okay? Is this good? Is this dark enough? Just paint the pattern. I think Alvaro Castaneda says it in one of his DVDs. He says that at some point, I believe it's him and not Joseph Zbukvich, because I have both their DVDs. In any case, one of them said, at some point, I stopped looking at the reference, at the view so much, and I just look at the painting, and the painting tells me what it needs. This is so true. At some point, and it can be very early on, you just have to let go of what you're seeing there and stop being so adamant about capturing the little details and the little nuances you're seeing. It doesn't really bring value. What brings value is knowing, okay, this starts very red, and then it goes a little gray, and then I have all the cars here. And you just focus on your painting. Whatever is out there, that's fine. you almost take a snapshot of it and then you work it into paper. Do you know how sometimes you look at a very, I don't know if you try this. As a kid, I was a weird kid when it comes to visual stuff. I would look at something, close my eyes, and look at the after image, right, with your eyes closed. I would do that often. It's almost like you look at it, close your eyes, maintain that after image, and just paint based off of that. And it's okay to look occasionally. You can do whatever you want, right? But I'm just saying that not being so caught up in exactly what this looks like is a huge benefit, honestly. So I would say that's my main lesson here. And also, like, you can express quite a bit with very little variations of value and color, right? This is pretty, it could be even more subtle, but it is pretty subtle, right? Everything is gray, kind of a mid-value, and then you push some of it to be darker, you push small parts of it to be lighter, and maybe you have some key highlights there just to really bring out the details, right? And I really like this one. This was during a webinar, by the way. I did a webinar that was quite, I think had quite a good result. So yeah, this is an interesting one. So you've seen me paint this also here on YouTube. It's actually a bit of a more detailed demo I gave for the Watercolor Breakthrough Club. But then I did upload snippets of it because I really, really liked it. And once again, look at how the light shifts what's here. It turns it just fiery red. Now, if you can capture that effect, you'll always be able to capture the effect of pouring light through whatever element there is. Now, sunsets in general, and this taught me a lot about sunsets, what you want to do almost always, that's the pattern, right? It's a very common pattern. You want to trap the light. And you trap the light using two different components, and that is values and colors. So you have an area that's very well lit because it's sunset, right? And the lightest bit is usually here at the bottom where the sun is, or maybe the sun is here and then this is the lightest bit, kind of like here. Honestly, the sun is pretty much here, but it could be higher. So you trap the light, meaning you darken everything around, and you also do a shift of temperature from very warm all the way to a gray and even potentially a blue, depending on the situation. Like here, the blue matched, but sometimes you won't be able to get a blue. This blue wouldn't work here when you're really blinded by the light. Blue doesn't work as well. So you want to trap it using values and colors. And that happens so often, you'll see it like the very lightest light is the paper white, which is why this is communicated so well here, because I just left this paper white. It's so easy to look at this and wonder, is it a red? Is it an orange? This is a red and orange. This is just paper white. So I trapped it with values, and I also trapped it with temperatures. See, blue, 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 violet, orange, light, just paper white. That idea of trapping the light is a huge pattern when it comes to sunsets. You'll see it all the time. And sometimes you want to go darker. Like this, I'm not even sure to this day that this is dark enough. Should probably go darker here and trap it even more. And I will say one more thing about this. The big insight I had is, clouds, they feel ephemeral and soft and kind of, you got to get them down in one go and whatnot. You can actually get a lot of work done on clouds in particular and improve them a lot gradually. So for example, all of these little clouds, I gradually pushed them towards the color and the value I wanted. They weren't just perfect right out the gate at all. You could say, arguably, they're not even perfect at the end, but this was a slow push, and it actually worked out quite well, I would say. So that's another thing. Was there anything else interesting? Once again, just look at your own painting. Look at the pattern that attracts you to painting something and just go with that. The way I did paint these clouds was very calculated. I started here and then I expanded and then I added, so it wasn't like a one go. And I find sometimes for paintings that require a bit more thoughtfulness, it works better for me. Okay, next up is this one. Quite a simple one, but this does show you the power of temperatures, okay? Because a lot of the temperatures here could be improved, I feel like, but I did manage to capture something of interest here. My biggest struggle, believe it or not, was not really with the sky, it was with the land and with this car in particular. I think I could have started way more wet on the bottom section just to allow some flow. Now, here's a huge one for this painting. It's so easy to see sky and land and think, okay, sky, light, land, dark, and you just go way overboard with your darks. What often I fail to realize, and many fail to realize, is things are quite light even within the darks. And I think there's a good example of this here, right? This is all in the dark, but look at how light it actually is, right? And actually same for this one, you know? Yes, this is a dark bit compared to the sky, but look at how light these sections are, right? It's just a light red. So, in a light yellow too in some spots. So this is much lighter, and you'll see I had to resort to covering it with opaque paint, right? If you're keen of eye and you're experienced, you'll notice this immediately. Can you see this? This was covered, a dark wash that was covered with a slightly lighter wash. That happens sometimes. You have to do make these adjustments, and that's fine. But just it's so easy to go overboard. Now then I had to do another wash on the ground that is brown. Why did that happen? Because I thought, okay, the sky, let me contrast it with maybe a bit of a cooler temperature, and it felt good to paint a cool temperature. Sometimes it feels good, but it's wrong. Something feels good, but it's not the actual accurate move. So I ended up putting a glaze of brown on top of it just to make it warmer. Now, why did I have to make it warmer? The answer is simple. Once again, it kind of lies here. Notice how everything is still pretty close color scheme-wise. Like this is a gray that is pretty close to the sky. The sky is so warm that this cannot be a blue. It cannot be a pure blue, right? As opposed to something like this that's in the sun. Sunlight, you can have multiple temperatures. But when you're going more atmospheric and a limited light source, this strip especially can't be warm and then the ground is completely cool. It's very jarring. It radiates light towards it anyway, so you have to show that. So I ended up covering it with brown. So it's very easy to misjudge the temperatures. It's very easy to misjudge the value too. And I wanted to put more emphasis on this truck. It just wasn't necessary. At the end of the day, I said, let it go. Just have it as par. You see it barely noticeable from the background. It's pretty much the same color and value almost. The one big thing I'm very proud of is this splash of opaque paint. I've seen artists do it. I wasn't sure I'll be able to make it, and I have. And this works really well for me, and I would want to introduce more of it. It just gives it this muddy feeling, like some of these vehicles have been in the mud, or maybe it rained and now the rain has stopped. I think it looks really good. Now, one thing no one cares about, no one notices, is these splashes. When you make them, sometimes you catastrophize and you feel like it's the end of the world. No one cares. It happened when I tried splashing this opaque paint. I got these splashes, see? No one cares, doesn't bother anyone, it still looks good. One more thing I'm quite proud of is this. See, the clouds here, they have this peachy look underneath them. That was achieved with a combination of different things, but mostly just changing the temperature really sharply and maybe introducing a bit of opaque paint, like something like this, like a pink that's a little opaque is very useful. Or titanium white can have a similar effect, actually. So yeah, quite proud of this one. This could be more orange. If I would compare it to the sunset once again, it should have probably been a little more orange and less of this pink, but that's fine. It has its own charm, and sometimes you kind of let it go and it works out. And it's as good as it will get. You just roll with the punches, as they say. So yeah, another one I'm quite proud of. This was a real challenge to get this brush mark. This is something, by the way, just to give you some practical tips here. So I have this brush. This is a Michael Soloviev one. The best way to paint these, you don't have to actually paint the line and hope your hand is straight. Just do this. It actually will work better with the Lebensdenrigger brush. So this is what I actually used for this. You just kind of touch. You touch lightly, and then it's much easier to do a straight line because you're already using the shape of the brush, the long shape of the brush. Just a little practical tip for you. And lastly, this one, I think it's quite an impressive painting. I painted it in 2 sessions as a demo for the Watercolor Breakthrough Club. It was quite challenging. This is the first demo of the club, by the way, so I'm very proud of it. It was quite challenging, but one big insight that I've gained from this is even in night scenes, you don't have to recreate the values to get the feel. You don't have to paint as dark as it is. The sky here, some parts of it are quite dark, but these areas aren't. And even this foliage here, it doesn't make sense for this late of a time of day to have these vibrant colors. It works, Sometimes there's something beyond reality and accuracy that makes a painting work. And it's kind of the soul of the painting. And it's very hard to explain with words, and maybe it's not meant to be explained with words. Something about you pouring a lot of focus and attention into it is the solution. It is the technical solution, believe it or not. It is the thing that you might be missing. And you think it's a technique, you think it's about control. Often it's not. Because this doesn't have the best control. It does have some nuances, don't get me wrong, but a lot of these areas were kind of left to their own devices, so to speak. I just let them do their thing and then came back and kind of reined in some areas, So a lot of the magic in watercolor is, honestly, it just comes down to letting the paint do its thing, and a very light and gentle touch. And even when it's very passionate and direct, it's still a light touch. You still are guiding the paint to do your bidding. You're not forcing it. If you try to force it, it just ends up boring to me. It's just so boring. And when I look at people like Thierry Duval, right, the way he paints, to me, it's impressive and like working on a really complex puzzle and spending hours, but I would get crazy bored if I had to paint this way, probably. So it's not a value judgment. His paintings are amazing. They're photorealistic. They're fantastic. But this way of painting is just not for me. I'm more of the light touch, let it paint itself, look for clues as to how I can help it to develop, and then just do that. That's how I enjoy painting. And it does mean that the results often aren't as detailed, realistic, and granular. Though, if you look at some of my paintings, they do feel that way. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed seeing this. It's been a while since I did one of these recent paintings videos, and I really wanted to share with you some of these and what I've gained from them. I think the more you grow, the more your insights are a bit higher level and have to do more with the illusions, more with the even mindset in a way, but not as a like, here's how to have a good mindset. Just noticing your own patterns, right? And understanding what makes you tick and what makes you mess up, mess up a painting. But in any case, thank you for watching. Really appreciate. I'm going to put the links to everything below: the frustration-free watercolor course, the watercolor breakthrough club if you do want these kinds of demos, and also huge thanks to everyone who supports me over on Patreon. If you want to receive credits at the end of the videos, that's how you get them, and you get access to some exclusive processes over there. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.